We go. Okay, everybody. Today I've got Dr. Josh Wagner, one of my favorite people in the world, here to speak to you about what are you going to speak about, Josh?
Guys, nice to meet you. It's Josh Wagner. I'm in Miami right now, but I have a practice in New York. I want to thank everyone, first of all, for being on. It might be 2 p.m. for you. It might be 11 a.m. It's a weekday. Whatever you may be doing, you could have been doing something else. So thank you. And guarantee you stay till the end of this. I don't know if we're going to go 30 minutes, 45 questions at the end. I will promise I will share with you a new way to look at giving care recommendations to your patients, especially 2016 going forward as more and more insurance is declining everywhere. That will make it both easier for you to recommend and easier for your patients to say yes, create more referrals and revenue and profitability and freedom in your practice. That's a promise. Just stay till the end because I have to deconstruct the first few minutes as to why what we've been doing doesn't work so well.
Great.
Let's go quickly.
Josh, just before
Yeah.
I want to go over a couple things really quickly for everybody so they know when we get done with this where to find this because we're going to be recording it. And I want to give them a few things. So everybody, the MyVision website's brand new. And if you go to the website, you're going to be able to find recordings under recorded webinars. It'll be here. But in addition to that, there's been some huge changes when it comes to the application in the personal injury arena for you. And if you go under the up at the upper right, if you log in and register yourself on the site, it gives you access to a hidden page that provides you all the information you need for those that are interested in getting PI attorneys to actually send patients to you for the MyoVision Dynaram test. And just so you know, attorneys don't like referring directly to chiropractors. The whole game of PI can be done very ethically if you have the data to support your position. And I've created a video for the attorneys, but one of the things they will do, they will refer to you for the test itself, which leads to an implied referral. So just wanted you to know that it's all new. You can go through the website, get to know it, but this webinar will be under recorded webinars, and you'll be able to find it there later. So let's go back, Josh, to yours. I just want to make sure they knew about the new site, and go ahead and take over.
And David, am I able to switch the slide?
Yes. Did you just do that?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize I could.
Yep.
Okay. So just 30-second background on me. Started practice in Manhattan, New York from scratch a few years ago during massive insurance decline. I was a chiropractic practice management junkie. I learned from everyone, I saw everyone, and I quickly realized that in this changing economy, both insurance-wise and it's a new patient out there. Back in the 80s and 90s, most new patients, it was their first time coming to a chiropractor or going to one. Now it's their second, third, fourth, or fifth, and they get a different message from everyone. And most of the scripted, robotic, or pressure sales tactics that are taught don't work so well. So I was able to learn strategies outside of the profession, bring them in, and create a very beautiful practice. And over the past couple of years, I've created an online platform for chiropractors to learn these same skills. And there's hundreds of chiropractors all throughout the world, every state in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Europe, using them. So it's not specific to me in Manhattan. This stuff works. And what I'm going to share with you is one of the newest concepts I've been sharing with my members, and I'm giving it to you because you're on this webinar. So let's start. One of the major issues for all chiropractors is patient care recommendations, meaning having exact standards and protocols that we know work. A dentist or pretty much any other type of doctor, there's a set protocol for filling a cavity or doing a root canal. In chiropractic, it doesn't matter how you look at a patient, whether it's upper cervical, network, CBP, or just symptomatically, it doesn't matter. You can do it anywhere you want. There aren't set protocols, and that causes incongruence and uncertainty in practitioners. And if there's any uncertainty in you as a practitioner, it's going to come off to the patient as being uncertain, and then what happens? they just don't accept your care, and they give you the excuses of, I've got to speak to my husband, or I've got to, look at the finances, or I'll come back after the holidays. And that crushes too many practices. Hey, David, can you flip the slide? I'm pressing it, and it's, oh, there it goes. Oh, no, it's going too far. So one of the incongruencies in chiropractic is that most of the care plan recommendations that chiropractors offer truly aren't clinical based. They were made in the 80s, 90s, from practice management gurus on seminar stages, and they were mostly catered to how much money can we extract from insurance companies, which at the time were practically giving unlimited care, or if patients didn't have insurance, how can we do the heavy, hard sell for the extremely high visits over a course of a year. I remember some of the first practices I was in, the typical care plans were usually 115 visits over the course of the year, and it's just crazy. That doesn't work nowadays unless you're okay with a very hard sell and getting no referrals and always having to get all of your new patients from scratch. So that worked back in the day when people had unlimited coverage because people would come in, chiropractic feels great, it gets results, and if they don't have to pay for it, people will come. Most people don't value their time as much as they should, or as much as maybe you on this webinar does, but as long as they don't have to pay, it feels good, they like the doctor, and they trust the doctor, they'll come. Times are changing, but more importantly, that created a model for chiropractors that all of our revenue would be based on individual patient visits. So obviously, the more visits we saw, whether per person or per week, the more we made. And of course, then there's a conflict of interest of we're going to be more profitable and make more the more visits we see. And that comes up, you probably noticed that with your patients, that let's say someone's on a certain care plan or not, and they may have an exacerbation or not, and you think they need to be seen more, there's an inherent bias that the patient's thinking, well, is the doctor recommending more care or more frequency because I really need it, or because insurance pays more, or because I'll have to pay more? So that causes a big rift between the patient-doctor relationship. And now more than ever, that patients are more responsible, so it's coming out of their pocket rather than just their insurance companies. So back again, any uncertainty anywhere in your practice, and right now, of course, we're focusing on care plan recommendations, but there are plenty of areas in the scope of chiropractic because it can be so ambiguous, because as soon as the profession started, it split into so many different factions of philosophies, ideologies, techniques, and all of that, that we are behind the 8 ball as a healthcare provider, that we do not have the exact specific care protocols that most others do. So wherever that's going on in your practice, areas of uncertainty, it's going to transfer into how your patients feel about you, your practice, and your care. And nowadays, it's way too easy for them to just Google, look at reviews for someone else, and go to the person down the street, rather than feel like you're the only one. Now, this care plan paradigm of making it everything per visit, reimbursement per visit, has gotten our profession attached to visit numbers in many ways. You know it, everyone likes talking or comparing or getting to a certain weekly volume. It means how many people you're adjusting, and it roughly equates to maybe how much you're making. PVA, chiropractors are addicted to thinking the highest the PVA, the better chiropractor they are, the better they're serving the patients, and cost per visit, which most chiropractors like to brag that their cost per visit may be higher than others and they feel like they're more valuable, whatever. Bottom line is, when we get so attached to these numbers, it dramatically hurts us when we're giving recommendations. One, because patients don't care about any of these, they don't want to know any of these, they don't understand any of these, but worst off is when it comes to the number of visits in a care plan. Now, there might be docs on the line from every end of the spectrum, from 4-visit care plans to 115-visit care plans. Either way, the higher the number goes, the worse it is for your patients to understand your care, accept your care or ever refer to you or return to you as a reactivation. Because as chiropractors, you know, it's very rare to have someone come in as a new chiropractic patient and have an active appointment with you for the rest of their life, meaning a lifetime person. The best bet you're going to have is patients reactivating with you after multiple and numerous discontinuations because they don't fully get it yet. Even if you're promoting, even if you're educating on preventative, maintenance, wellness, correction care, all of that, they're not going to get it. They haven't been through the schooling and the seminars and the understandings that you have for years. So think about just about every other type of doctor, your internist, a dentist, the OBGYN, the pediatrician. It's very rare that any of them need to see a patient more than, at most, a handful of visits. So when the typical chiropractor, for the same condition that they may go to the orthopedist for, whether it's disc injury, back issue, or a headache to their internist, for the same issue that they go to a chiropractor, but the chiropractor recommends tons and tons of visits, because it may not to you, but in a patient's mind, even 12 visits may seem like a lot, because no other doctor has ever recommended, let's say, more than 4 follow-up visits, if that. So let alone, you know, typical 60, 70, 80, upwards of 120 visit care plans that I've seen out there in the field, even the low end for us is a little scary for patients, and it doesn't make sense to them. And I'm telling you, education may make them on the front end sign on the dotted line and say yes, but it's going to hurt on the back end because they're not going to refer, they're not going to reactivate because they're going to think the only way they can utilize your care is having to commit to another one of these care plans. And again, in a person, a typical patient's first couple of visits, 99.9% of them are in pain or have some condition that they're coming to you for. They're not just coming because they want to get their subluxations corrected or they want to be at their maximum health or whatever it is. That's, you know, chiropractors are taught to believe that that's what the public's looking for. It's not true. You guys know that. Look what happened. Look at, you know, every one of your new patients that are coming in. During those first 2 visits, because they are in pain, they are in an emotional state. They're anxious. They're nervous because they've got a problem they can't figure out. They don't know. And in that state, your logical education of the spine, the anatomy, the nervous system, all of that, it can't get through their mentality. It's not possible. So that's why education really doesn't work in the first couple of visits. Over a plan, over months, over years, it absolutely will make a difference. But in the first couple of visits, it's really not getting through. And what this causes when you have a high number of visit care plans is lower percentage of startups and retention, patient dropouts and disappearance, and low to no referrals. Now, let me correct what I just said. Because I haven't gotten into how to give your recommendations yet. You can still see a person a lot of times, but it's how you recommend the care. And when you recommend the care with that set end number of visits, like I'm going to see you 36 times over the next 3 months, that is a much tougher sell. Because yes, that is what the scenario is. You have to get the person to say yes and accept your care recommendations. But when you say 36 visits over 3 months, it is so much tougher for the patient to understand and digest and accept. So there's a single switch that I'm shocked that over the past 100 and so years of the profession, this really hasn't been established as the way to practice. But going forward, it's going to make it so much easier for you and the patients. It's a single switch that's going to sound easy, and it is easy, but because as chiropractors, we're so addicted and ingrained in the per visit or number of visit model, I see it with my members all the time. It takes time to really work it out in your head, ask questions, see it on paper, and all that. What it's going to give you, first of all, is more integrity, certainty, and authenticity in your recommendations. You know, far too many chiropractors recommend care that they don't really believe in, but they do it because they're told by their coach, this is what to do. You know, this is how you're going to profit more. And if you're doing anything that you're uncertain about, it's not yourself, it's out of personal integrity for you, you will never be as successful as you can be. That is just a rule, it's a law. Now, it's not easy to be certain, authentic, and integrity with everything, but unless you're striving for it in every area, then you have no chance of it at all. And when you have that framework, it will give you dramatically more patient leadership, patient compliance, and patient trust. And that's the difference when it comes to retention, referrals, and a much, much easier practice to run and operate for both you and your staff. So right now, if you're browsing Facebook, sign off, texting, throw it in the corner, take out a piece of paper, write this down. Your initial care recommendations. Now I say initial, that doesn't mean just getting the person out of pain, and that doesn't mean leading them into lifetime wellness. You have to find that sweet spot in between where you're matching both giving what they're looking for, as well as clinically what they need to get that and hold that. And yes, that sounds ambiguous because, like I said from the beginning, there is no straightforward clinical protocol in chiropractic within the 87 to 350 techniques out there that have this. So you've got to find that based on your experience as a clinician. And hopefully, if you've been in practice longer than a year, you have a good idea about that. So you're going to set your initial care recommendations for a new patient based on a length of time rather than a set number of visits. So when I said before, 3 months, 36 visits, you can recommend 3 months, but you don't talk about the end number of visits. You don't mention it at all, not in the consult, not in the exam, not in your recommendations. It's never even brought up. An example is you can have multiple different plans based on different types of patients presenting to you. You could have a 1-month plan, you could have a 3-month, you could have a 5-month, you could have whatever it is that fits in integrity and authenticity for you and how you give care to people, again, based on matching what they're looking for and with what you're looking for and what you need to get them there. Now, you're going to give a definite initial frequency. Remember, you're the doctor, they're looking for you to lead them. So you may say, Mary, the first 3 weeks, I'm going to see you 3 times a week because that's the absolute best way to start this care for what you're coming in with and what you're looking for. These headaches and what this x-ray looks like for you to be headache-free within a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. We're going to start off at 3 times a week. For some practitioners on this, it may be 2 times a week. I'm not here to tell you what exactly to recommend. I'm showing you how to better recommend it so patients more easily understand, digest, and accept it, and much more easily refer others. So after those first initial frequency that you're certain about, based on you and your experience and your technique, then your frequency will adapt based on the person's progress and what you feel they need. Maybe they'll continue at the same rate. Maybe you'll be able to drop down in frequency because they're doing better, because they're doing their home care, because they're doing their outside recommendations, and you let them know that. And that makes sense to a patient, and they want to hear that. Patients don't like coming, no matter what you believe, no matter how great. Listen, you may be the funniest, best guy or girl chiropractor in the world. You may have amazing staff, awesome music, and great treats for them to eat. But on the whole, patients don't like having to go to the doctor's or the chiropractor's office. So when they hear that they may not have to come in as much because they're doing better, meaning their end result, they're getting closer to the end result, they're going to be happy about that. So, and the results and the progress, that's based on you. Like MyoVision is an absolute great objective assessment necessary, in practices. You may do it based on pattern if you're a certain type of adjuster. You may do it on a re-x-ray. You may do it on how their symptoms are changing. Again, I'm not telling you how to practice clinically. That's for you to own, and everyone finds that in their own way. Again, I'm sharing with you how to best recommend your care. So this is the communication and the platform of it. Now, important, because some people get confused. This is not a membership practice or unlimited visits. This is not, Mary, you need 3 months of care and you can come in as much as you want until we get you fixed. No. The end result, the 3 months, is your initial recommendations to get them, 80%, 90%, 100% to where you think they could get to in that time frame, cater to what they're looking for, based on your frequency recommendations every week. So just a disclaimer, this is not unlimited visits, not a membership practice. You are in charge of the frequency and you are always the leader. Now, total number, end number of visits. Again, they're never mentioned in the beginning. You'll mention the initial frequency, the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks, whatever you feel most congruent with, but you're never mentioning the end number, and even by the end, you're not mentioning the end number. In the beginning, you don't know, and at the end, it doesn't matter because the fee for your care is going to be based on whatever time length. You'll have a fee for your 1 month, you'll have a fee for your 3-month care plan, you'll have a fee for your 5 month, and yes, you can still have a pay per visit fee, and I endorse that because there are going to be people that aren't ready for that type of commitment, or there may be people that you feel just need 2 weeks of care. And I would suggest bumping up your per visit fee rate so it's not as advantageous to take advantage of as by a patient. And so a patient realizes, wow, if I'm coming at this initial frequency this many times and I'm doing it the per visit rate, that's going to be a lot more expensive than the care plan rate that he's given me for the 1 month or the 3 months or the 5 months. So that's just a quick tidbit on the fees. Patients understand time length for healing and care. Whether it's Invisalign at a dentist's office, whether it's a PT's office, whether it's whatever it may be, a patient can understand this is going to take a month, this is going to take 3 months. You have someone with MS, fibromyalgia, really bad situation, this is going to take 5 months of us working together. And you choose the time lengths, based on your experience. But patients can understand that, especially if they're coming to you after having suffered with something for years or 6 months or even a month. They understand it's not just going to be a quick fix. But they're scared of seeing that total visit number because they don't want to have to come in that many times. No other doctor has ever presented, I need to see you 36 times, and they're just going to start multiplying in their head, how much was this initial visit? If I have to come back 30 more times or 40 or 50 more times at this rate, that's going to be a lot. So it's immediately on many different fronts staring the patient. And again, they're in an emotional state. The education doesn't make sense to them in the first 2 visits, and it makes it that much tougher of a sell. Your relationship or the care plan is also going to be compromised now of not just the visits that you see them when you're telling them they're going to come in, but it's going to be the full relationship with you. Meaning you may right now give talks in your office, like a once-a-month talk on a different aspect of wellness. And right now you may position that as a free service to your patients or their guests as a way to deliver more value for their being a patient, as a marketing tactic to get more guests in and new patients, and that's all great. But when it's just a free service, it's not valued as much by the patients. When it's part of their care that they're paying for, like Mary, this is the best protocol for what you're dealing with and the results you're looking for, this 3-month plan. This includes the adjustment visits. We're going to start off at 3 times a week for the first 2 weeks, and then we are going to adjust that based on your progress. And that depends on how much you're doing outside of here that I'm recommending. And I have talks, let's say every 2 weeks or every month. They're not mandatory, but I definitely recommend you get to them because it's going to benefit your care and benefit your overall health in the future. So you're making things part of the relationship rather than just the visits. And then your care starts getting a lot more valuable because it's inclusive. You may include supplement protocol rather than that being like an outside separate upsell. That could be something that's included in the plan, and you're not even giving individual prices with it. It's just mixed in with the whole plan. It could be the home recommendations that you're giving to them. It could be the fact that you're open for email correspondence with them, which, don't freak out, they're not going to email you, they're not going to bother you, but they feel like they have a relationship, a partner, and a leader that they have more access to. And above it all, the bottom line is that this is a relationship and a partnership, not just I'm paying for the times I show up. And again, in most practices, all of these examples, the things above, they are separate upsells, they're free, or they're just suggested, and none of those come off as powerful to the patient or as lucrative to the doctor in most cases. Now, what happens in this model, the results for you are that it's so much easier for patients to understand, okay, the doctor needs to see me for 3 months and we're going to start off at 2 times a week or 3 times a week. So much easier for them to accept that, explain it to their spouse, and refer other people. It's most likely, at least 99% of chiropractors I've ever explained this to, easier for you to recommend purely because you know there's more congruency and integrity behind it. Show me a chiropractor that knows no matter what new patient walks in 60 or 90 days down the line, the exact frequency that patient should have that week, 60 or 90 days later. It's just not true. But that's how our profession has gone about it, and we wonder why we're at the bottom of the credibility healthcare totem pole. That's an example right there. So when you start doing things with more congruency and integrity, it's going to get easier for you and the patients. And just as importantly, it positions you as the leader and the teacher, not just the mechanic, the spine mechanic. Because no matter how smart you are, when people are just paying you for the adjustment itself, that's really what we're relegated to. It's like that commodity exchange. They're not paying for the experience or the relationship. They're really just paying you to put your hands on them and make that fix. And that's why oftentimes chiropractors get frustrated with the clinic down the street that's doing the cheaper prices. People go there because that's how they see our care. They're really just paying for that, those 2 minutes or 20 minutes on the table and the thrust in the back or however you may practice. So this really positions you as all-encompassing relationship for care, not just a mechanic. And the best part, in some practitioners' minds, is it will cause you to be more profitable. Now, I don't mean more profitable because a lot more new patients are going to say yes. That will do it, absolutely. That'll cause your revenue to go up. You know, if 70% of your new patients start right now and this causes 90%, that's huge in and of itself. But you're going to start being more profitable for this reason. Because patients are more likely to be doing what you recommend outside of your visits, like you may have at-home care recommendations or certain lifestyle changes. The fact that that's part of what they're paying for, there's more likely a chance that they're going to act on it. So if they're doing more healthy stuff outside the office, they're going to be getting better quicker, rather than if they're not. What's going to happen is as they progress, whether that's symptomatically, scans, x-ray, however you assess them, they're not going to be needing to come in as frequently because they're getting better. So over that course of 3 months, rather than if you set up a care plan for 36 visits over 3 months and they had to come in all 36 times, now someone who's doing a lot better, they may come in 25 times instead of 36. So, but you're still getting paid the same amount because they're paying for the 3 months of care. They're paying for that set plan. So your actual collections per visit will go up dramatically, and you'll have more free time. And that more free time may be seeing more new patients, or it may be just not running around throughout the clinic as much, while you're making the same amount, if not more money. And every time you're actually bending over someone, your profitability per adjustment is far, far more. So all of those are extremely huge bonuses for the typical chiropractor. And at the same time, your patients are happier because you may be thinking right now, wait, if the patient comes in less, they're going to be pissed because they paid X. Well, think about it. You're not telling the person, I'm going to see you 36 times and then they only come in 25. You're not saying the end number of visits. you're letting them know, we're going to get you better. And patients would rather come in 3 times and get better and pay X than come in 30 times and pay X or even 70% of X. People don't like having to come in. So even if they have to come in less, if they're doing better, they're going to be happier. That is a huge distinction. And this model, more than anything else, eliminates the age-old chiropractic issue of patients feeling that every time you recommend for them to come in or increase their frequency, even if it's 100% honest and clinically authentic, they're still feeling, is the doctor having me keep coming back because every time I come back, he gets paid more or she gets paid more, whether it's by my insurance company or straight out of my pocket. This model eliminates that. If someone's on a 3-month plan and it's week 11, let's say it's week 8 and you're seeing them 2 times a week at that point or 1 time a week, and then some exacerbation comes up and you say, Mary, I got to bump you up and wait, I got to see you at least twice next week to get on top of this. There's no more money out of their pocket. You're not making any more money, and there's no rift in that relationship whatsoever. So all of this, it gives you far more peace of mind. It's going to give you more retention, more referrals, more revenue, more profitability, and more freedom. More freedom meaning you don't have to see X number of visits to make X number of dollars. And that should be a huge relief to most chiropractors because the days, yes, there are still people that want to stand on a stage and brag that they saw 500 this week or 1,000. It doesn't make any difference. I know too many 500 to 1,000 a week chiropractors that take home less money at the end of the month or year than 100 a week chiropractors, and those 100 a week chiropractors are not ripping off or scamming insurance companies or doing anything else. So, now is the time period to really get focused on what's important to you, your family, your life, and so much of the ego in chiropractic is not only not working nowadays, it's just useless. What's the point? Chiropractors seeing 1,000 a week are not changing their communities or the world any more than chiropractors seeing 100 people a week. Now, with that being said, do I think more people should be under chiropractic care? Absolutely. Should everyone be? Absolutely. Is that ever going to happen? No. But what you can do in your practice is have more peace of mind, make it easier for yourself, make more money, and in this model, it's going to be easier for people to talk about you because they're happier, it makes more sense, and it's more congruency. And that's when life starts getting a lot easier, practice starts getting a lot easier, and it's all about, I give every one of you so much credit. Everyone that started, if not more, is still on the webinar. So what it means is it makes sense to you. It's getting out of the old ways of thinking, this is how chiropractic has to be practiced. And this is just one way. This is how to recommend your care. Everything from communication to technique to office setup to staff. There has been, for the past 30 plus years, that practice management has been so ingrained since insurance sprung up. It's been the same models through different people's personalities and voices, but across the board, it's all the same, give or take 5%. What I'm sharing with you right now and with chiropractors all over the world are new strategies and models that work and that work well. And that's why I'm giving this to you. You deserve it. If you got on this, you took this time, absolutely deserve it. Most likely you're an advocate or you're a fan of the MyoVision, which I'm 100% endorse, and that's what I think every chiropractor should be utilizing as one of their assessment tools as part of objective outcomes. And that's another thing, what I call this new era or next era of chiropractic. The old model of just flying sevens every time because the patient feels good and their insurance company is paying and that's all they care about, that's going away. You've got to have objective outcomes as to why the person is getting the care, is continuing with the care, to be able to correspond with an MD or a lawyer as to why they're getting the care, why you're recommending what you're recommending. because it's harder and harder to thrive off of the just keep coming back, flying 7, bill insurance. That model is going out. So that's one way why MyoVision is so vital, because of its accurate objective outcomes, and it's exploding on the scene in terms of within the attorney and PI scene because of its evidence, and David will speak more on that right after in the courts. So objective outcomes and strategic communication, that's what I share. That's the other end of the patient communication recommendations, is how to speak to patients so easily without any pressure, force, fear, bait and switch, heavy education, or anything that ever makes you feel like a salesman or anything like that, to even get to the point of saying, Mary, this 3-month care plan is exactly what you need, or this 5-month, or this 1 month, or this 6-week, whatever you feel is clinically necessary. And that's what I want to share with you guys. If you liked what I shared here, every week I give webinars on that communication for however you recommend your care at perfectpatientfunnel.com. This is the end of these slides. So, David, I'm just giving you a heads up there. I want to open it up for questions, and David, whatever you may want to share after.
I want to make really clear, one of the things you're describing, to put it in a nutshell, is what Frank Savinsky would always talk about, which is authenticity. And you're actually presenting something which is so simple. And the truth is, Josh, one of the things I really like the most about you is you're completely, there's no dogma in anything you're doing. You actually are looking at a problem and you're interested in finding the best solution for it, which is what you're describing here. The world is changing constantly. And Josh, you actually are integrating new ideas because the truth is, one of the things I can say as not as a chiropractor is people will tell me things about their chiropractors that you discussed in this. And one of the things you may have not seen as clearly from what your own words is they develop resentment when you try to sell them on stuff. The way you're describing and presenting this is way more intelligent for the modern patient, because that resentment they feel towards you gets spread to everybody. Not only do they not refer, which is what you were talking about, it's worse than that. They actually will say bad things about chiropractors, and I hear them. So you know what I'm talking about, Josh, right?
Absolutely, and that's why so many people, people who have never been to a chiropractor oftentimes have a slightly negative bias because of hearsay, and that needs to change.
Right, and it could be done so it can be done so much better and so simply. And one of the things you talked about is overselling. I hear this constantly from patients about the MyoVision itself, that the doctor went into. By the way, you'd be surprised when you actually do the test on someone. Don't go right into explaining it. You'd be surprised that when you just give them a little explanation, hey, guess what? It's looking at muscle tension about the spine. The length of the bars is proportional to the levels of muscle tension. You'd be amazed at how often, if you don't talk, the patient will tell their spinal story based on the system that shows what's going on, the invisible, the subluxation underneath the skin inside their body. They'll do it on their own. You don't need to sell them. So if we cut down, reduce the amount of overselling to them, they actually end up being more drawn to us because it becomes their story, not your version of their story. And so that's a really important part of this also.
David, I like what you just said there, that you're making it their story, not our version of their story, or even worse, the chiropractic story, which again, in the first 2 visits, patients can't latch on to. And I'll go over mock examples of consultations or recommendation conversations with chiropractors, and they'll say, Josh, I felt like you were just telling me a story about my life, and I wanted to keep hearing more, rather than me trying to push chiropractic into their ears, which causes people to back up and put their arms up.
Right. By the way, another principle I want to drive home about what you're talking about is the in psychology, there's a term called the foot in the door effect, and the Fuller Brush men were the absolute best at this. When the Fuller Brush men walked up, they didn't say, they knocked on your, they didn't say, hey, do you want to buy all these brushes in my box, my case here? They instead said, they asked for a lower request, which is they'd say, "Hey, can I use your phone for something?" So it was a very little thing, and that once the person said, "Sure, you can use my phone," then he said, "Hey, do you want to see these brushes?" And they're way more likely to be open to that if you don't ask for a tremendous amount up front. Does that make sense, Josh?
Absolutely. And that's like telling the person, I'm going to need to see you for the first couple weeks at 2 times a week. That's all you're letting them know how we're starting. You're not telling them, and at the end, I'm going to have seen you 45 times, even though that may happen at the end. You don't frame it in the beginning as that because that's heavy and scary.
Right. Okay, let's go through some questions here. Okay, one of them is, how is this different from a membership fee system? It sounds like it's just a month membership or 3-month membership, just not saying it's a membership.
Uh, well, good question. And I'd have to know exactly what he's referring to, but from my perspective, it's not a come as you go. Each month is, that $79, come as much as you want. So again, it's not unlimited visits. You are still prescribing or recommending the exact frequency to that patient based on what they need. It's not a come as you go clinic. So it's not unlimited visits, and it's not every month is the same fee. You have a fee structure for that 1 month of care. You have a fee structure for the 3 months of care. You have a fee structure for the 5 months of care. And then you may have an ongoing fee structure for that for people who do want to take advantage of you on more of a maintenance or wellness level. But it is not unlimited care, and it's not the same price each month for everyone, just tripled or quintupled for the 5.
I just sent you another question here. Can you see the questions on your end, Josh, or do you want me to read them?
You'll have to read them. I can't see them.
Okay. Um, for a month,
Yeah. Okay.
can you see it now?
No, I was going to say, to make it more clear for some of the attendees, well, how do I create my prices? Well, you already have a certain level of prices in your practice already. What I do recommend is, because you should always allow a person to come on a per visit basis, even though you're not going to endorse that or promote it, or may even write it down, I recommend bumping up your per visit fee so they're not as looking forward to taking advantage of you, of your services for that per visit fee, because it is higher. Then let's say you have a 1 month plan and you foresee on average, at least right now, let's just say you'd see someone 10 times in a month. Whatever your current fee is for 10 visits, I would make your fee that, if not more, for the 1 month plan, and then realize that if someone actually does come in that full 10 times over the month, you're making what you currently would make or more, but more likely, they're not going to even come in 10 times, or over the 3 months, they're not going to come in at the same frequency they would have that you're recommending now. So because they're coming in 7 times rather than 10, you just made 30% more revenue for the amount of times you're bending over someone, if that's clear.
Great. Mm-hmm. All right, so I got another question. For month plans, you collect the total prepaid amount at second or third visit? Is that the question? And then how does insurance play a role? Often, often you cannot collect a copay before the day of visit.
Right. Okay. So for right now, let's cater this to the cash paying patients, or the patients that more increasingly are having the higher and higher deductibles, like, they're 3, 4, 5,000, and your initial recommendations may be within that amount. So first, let's cater to the cash. The insurance gets a lot more funky and complicated, and I'm not going to go through that now. The first part of the question was, it doesn't have to be a prepay. You can recommend the 3 months of care, and you can have a prepay for that care, or you can have it broken down into installments, like 3 installments over the 3 months, one right now, the next 2 30 days apart. You could offer those 2 different ones to make it easier for a person to invest. And when they see those installments broken down, it's easier for them to digest, and especially rather than thinking of paying the per visit for a month, maybe even more than 2 of those installments.
Okay, there's another question here. If this is up to you, if you want to, I don't know how you'd respond. Maybe this is something you do in your class. Could you give examples of how you explain a 1, 3, or 6 month plan?
Good. Okay. That would be the best recommendations would be to get on one of my webinars, because that's where I go through the community. See, what I did on this webinar is giving you the concept, and literally you can start creating your own, whether it's a 1 month, a 6 month, a 3 month, you can start creating your own, as well as everything you include in it, as well as your fees. I'm giving you the framework. The actual communication from consult to exam to recommendations is really what I go nuts to bolts in with members, but I give you pieces of it that you can use immediately on my webinars on my website that are running every day. So if you go to Perfect Patient Funnel, you can get on one, and you can literally start using that immediately, and that will give you pieces that you can use the next day that will attract patients in your office easier to hear you and understand you and accept what you're offering.
Okay, another question here is, how do you determine money for the time frame?
That question probably came in before I answered like a minute ago when I was talking about estimate the number of visits that would probably be used within that time, and then go above, and most likely they're going to use less because they're going to get better quicker, because they're more responsible for everything, not just showing up to your office.
Got it. Do you provide a written plan?
Written plan meaning this written out rather than just saying it to patients?
It's just a question. I don't know.
Yeah, well, assuming they mean it's written on paper, like this is the 3 month, this is what they get, these are the options for the finances, absolutely. Everything should be written down. Don't expect a patient to remember anything you say. So everything should always be written down so a 6-year-old can understand it and make sense.
Great. Okay.
And again, you may have a 1 month, a 3 month, a 5 month. When someone comes in, you're the doctor. It's not pick and choose. What do you feel like? It's, Mary, for this condition and the results you're looking for, this is the best protocol for care. So they can do a per visit and bail at any time, but you're recommending one of your time length plans, not pick and choose.
Got it. Cool. All right. So anyways, is there any other, let's see if there's any other questions here. This is really great information, Josh. And again, another thing to remind everyone is to register on the MyoVision website. There's a lot of information I don't want others to know. You can register on the MyoVision site. It gives you access to specific pages that are hidden. And we don't know what your login or password is. You create it yourself, but it does give you access to, we have to approve it, but Joe, it gives you access to the hidden pages that are on personal injury. And there's a bunch of stuff that I don't really want the public and the insurers to know about that are in there. Brand new site, please get to know it. And Josh, how do we reach you?
Best way, go to my homepage, perfectpatientfunnel.com. You can get on one of the webinars tonight. You can get my emails with practice building videos. You can see a bunch of videos right on the site to understand more about my mentality and what I'm recommending for the profession. And ultimately, it's the middle of the day on a weekday, on a work day, and I really give every one of you so much credit for being on this and for staying on the whole time. Really, I'm impressed with every single one of you. I love this profession. It breaks my heart the position we've pigeonholed ourselves in to the public, and I'm creating strategies and making them available for chiropractors to break that, to have a lot more fun in practice, help more people, and make more at the same time.
And it's so much easier. You're not. I really love what you're doing, Josh. All right, I think we should wrap it up. Any other final words for them, Josh?
No, that's it. Thank you guys for everything you do day in and day out, the people you're helping. You need anything, you can send me an email directly from the site, and I will get back to you. Any email that's for real, I will respond to. So Great. Thank you for what you guys do.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Everyone have fun. Happy scanning. Bye-bye.